Recording, and it is still visible. I think it worked. Okay.
Yes.
I'm gonna hold, I'm gonna hold, I'm gonna hold my words for 5 seconds and then start. Good morning, Sheila. How are you doing this morning?
I'm wonderful, Wayne. How are you today?
It is a good morning, thank you. And I am looking outside. I see sun, I see wind, I see birds. Everything is good.
All right.
And welcome everyone to 27 Minutes with Sheila and Wayne, where we talk about communication skills and verbs as we are attempting to change the world one verb at a time. And Sheila, would you please let our guests know what the verb is for today?
I will. It is to set, and two meanings are to put, lay, or stand something in a specific place or position, or to put on or bring into a specified state, like the hostages were set free, for instance. And I've got
Oh,
a lot of background information about this word.
okay, excellent. And I have a few more
I
definitions
thought you might.
looking at the Cambridge Dictionary, and obviously it talked about the UK version of the verb and the English
Yes.
version of the verb. I won't tell you which one is which because I didn't write that down, but
Okay.
here we go. To fix or make certain, to get something ready so that it comes into operation or can be used, to establish or decide something, to give someone work to do, to cause someone or something to start doing something, to cause something or someone to be in the stated condition or situation. And the last one, if a story, film, etc., is set in a particular time or place,
Mm-hmm.
the action in it happens in that time or place. So I
Right.
thought those were pretty good. All
The,
right, you have a lot
yes.
to say, so I'm going to let you go ahead.
Well, I'm going to start with a trivia question, and I hope you have one too.
I do.
The next Oxford Dictionary is scheduled to be published in 2037. What is the expected word that will have more meanings than any other word? And by the way, this is called a homograph, which is word with one spelling but many definitions.
Okay. Wow. Mine is pretty close to yours.
Okay.
I'm going to give the word that I'm talking about, but I'm not going to tell you the number.
Okay.
According to the Guinness World Record website, the word with the most meanings in English is the verb set, which we're doing today.
I found that too. And I can tell you how many meanings they came up with in the last Oxford English Dictionary, which was published in 1989. Do you know how many they had then?
I absolutely do because that's my trivia question. How many?
Oh, I'm not going to say it then. Okay. But
Okay.
to set is called one of the most ambiguous words in the English language, also called a stealth word, and also called a homograph, which is a word with one spelling but many definitions.
Yes, wow. And it does have many definitions and many uses. It's wow.
Right. Right.
Yes. So that number that I saw that at the end of the answer to the trivia question was
Right.
staggering to me.
Same here. I've got a little opening paragraph here I want to read to you
Okay,
that kind of defines the challenge that I had with this word. So,
please do.
okay. So, Wayne, I set myself down in my chair in front of the desk, which I had set up as a podcast studio. I set down my water glass and set about researching this word. I was set back at first to learn there's so many meanings, and I realized I set myself up for failure with too many options. So I set my mind to thinking, and it was like setting off fireworks in my head. The way to set about the task and set myself free from this challenge was to ask you to go first.
That is so good. What'd you use? 14 or 15 iterations of
I
set?
didn't count. I didn't count.
I thought that was going to be the question at the end. I'm like, I started to count, but then I lost track. Yes. Yeah, set is it's such a versatile word though.
Right? I never even paid attention to this word.
And again, it's one of those words that confuses or makes our
Right.
language so difficult for
Yes.
others to learn English,
Yes.
because there's, yes, you just set it over here, or you set it over there, or you set it to
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's
it's
a
just
verb, a noun, and an adjective.
absolutely. And the transitive verbs are just multiple. They're just many.
And I know that too because I just looked up the difference between transitive and intransitive
Oh,
verbs.
oh, did you? Well, for
Don't
our
no,
list,
don't ask.
don't.
I forgot it already.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yes. And ladies and gentlemen, you can find Sheila at which website, Sheila?
ZekeandSheila.com.
You can find Wayne at www.mindsyncing.com, and you can email me at wayne@mindsyncing.com. Not sure if you can email Sheila just yet, so send those to me.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Yes. All right. We love the feedback. And I have to say, we have been getting lots of feedback, particularly from two individuals. And you know what? It's really helpful. So please keep those
Yes.
thoughts and comments coming, and criticisms, because we like
Right.
criticism. We want to do it better.
Right.
Yes. All right. So Sheila, where would you like to take us so far to to set the stage correctly? Where would you like to take us with the
Nicely
set?
done. Can I give a few quotes here?
Absolutely. I was excited about your quotes today.
Okay. All right. Uh, Lewis B. Smedes said, "To forgive is to set a prisoner free and discover that that prisoner is you."
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
And here's one from Eric Fromm. "The psychic task which a person can and must set for himself is not to feel secure, but to be able to tolerate insecurity."
Hmm.
That's a thought forethought question or quote because a lot of people are talking about anxiety lately, and one definition of being able to handle anxiety is to tolerate insecurity. Okay, so the last one, and this is my favorite. Horace Mann said, "Lost yesterday, somewhere between sunrise and sunset, 2 golden hours, each set with 60 diamond minutes. No reward is offered, for they are gone forever."
Isn't that so true?
Yes.
That's the, time is the only thing we can't get back.
Right.
We can get most things back that I can think of, but if we set ourselves to thinking in that path, you can never get time back. It's gone.
It's
Mm.
gone. And there have been times in my life where I felt like I lost a year because of things going on. But you can use the lost of past time to decide how you're going to use your future time.
I agree.
Oh,
And
good, because you were pausing for a second there. I thought you were
I
saying, "Oh, how do I? How do I?"
no, no, I was thinking about what you said, and I
Okay.
like that, and I certainly agree. Yes, golly, because I'm sure we've all been there. We've all had that setback,
Right.
no pun
Right.
intended, where things or life just kind of overwhelmed us, and things
Yeah.
happen,
Yeah.
and you think, wow, how can this be happening? And you muster through it. You get through it because you have support. You're strong-willed. You have self-efficacy in yourself, and you pick up your you get up, you dust yourself off, and you keep
Right.
moving,
Right. Right.
because everything else would want you to do that, and
Right.
everyone else would want you to do that.
Right.
we have
Right.
to we have to understand that for ourselves, that we we need to move forward when we have setbacks, because if we don't, as you say, we'll just sit there and
Lose
atrophy,
more precious time. Yeah.
lose more diamonds, right?
Right. Right.
Diamond seconds, yes.
Right.
Gosh.
Right.
So,
Wayne, I have one more quote that's just another little quickie here.
okay.
Jonathan Swift said, "Don't set your wit against a child."
You'll lose every
You will
time.
lose every time.
They are so cool, aren't they?
They are
Don't, yes, we will lose every time.
every time.
Yes. Here's one. I
Okay.
Not a quote,
Okay.
but I was talking to a young man, and he was about 5 years old, 4 years old, and so I got down on one knee so I could be almost eye to eye with him. And as I got down to his level, he dropped to his knee as well.
Oh. Oh,
It was
that's
so
great.
cute.
That's
It
great.
was so cute. Everybody just cracked up because they knew what I was doing. But you know what? The little guy, he was smarter than all of us.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
which takes me to one of my first things that I would like to say
Good, please.
in life in general. Um, Moms and dads, we need to set the example.
Mhm.
Or my mom and dad did set the example for me. So I was setting an example for him that, you need to be on the eye level with someone, but
Mhm.
he was too young to realize what was going on. So he just thought, okay, I'm going to get down a little bit low too. Okay, yes, all right. Since Mr. Applewhite got down on one knee, I'm going to get down on one knee too.
Well, and another thing that says is you never know who's watching what you're doing, so and who you're influencing, good or bad. So,
That's absolutely right. Which brings me to one of my favorite quotes.
okay.
One of my favorite quotes,
Awesome.
and I don't know who said it, and I
Okay.
apologize. I know a lot of people have repeated it, but I'm
Mhm.
not sure who originally said it. But um, doing what's right when no one's watching
Mhm.
is,
Yep.
I love that, and I try to do that.
And it sets you on the right course for life.
It does set you on a correct path, doesn't it? Yes,
This
set.
is a word we're gonna be using a lot in this way throughout this podcast. So,
You betchums. Now at
warning.
work,
Yes.
at work, I
Yes.
I love the word set. When we picked it out of our little jar there last week,
Mhm.
I said, "Oh, set. This is going to be good," because I was thinking about work. So at work, we set the vision and we
Mhm.
communicate it effectively.
Mhm.
At least we hope we do. We can use set to set your individuals, groups, and teams up for success. You had
Yes.
you had mentioned earlier about setting someone up for failure.
Me.
Or
Mhm.
okay, but we need to set at work. We need to set individuals up for success and
Mhm.
groups and teams.
Mhm.
And how do we do that? Well, we have to hire the right individuals, don't we? We
Yes.
have to train them for what is to come, not train them for the job that they think they're going to be doing, but train them for what is to come.
Right.
Keep them up to date and current in their respective jobs. And not lastly, but lastly on that thought, set yourself up to remain current in your respective job or position. And a lot of individuals forget that. They think, oh, we need to train the staff, we need to train the groups, we need to train Ron or Joe or Wayne. They forget that they might need to be educated as well themselves.
That's a really good point. And Wayne, you have talked in the past about always be reading 3 different books.
Yes,
Can you talk about those again? Because those are helping set yourself up for success.
absolutely. A friend of mine, Tony, his name was Tony, um, and I forget his last name. Forgive me, but this was, oh my goodness, this was way back in 2002, I believe, 2003.
Were you even alive then?
I think I was 5, but we'll
Okay.
see.
All right.
But Tony was an assistant principal at my son's school in Brussels, Belgium,
Ah.
and he taught me or suggested to me we should read 3 books, and the 3 books that we should read are the same intervals that we would read any book. So if you're going to read new books every 6 months, then pick up these 3 books as well on top of. But here are the 3 books. A book of poetry, because a book of poetry helps to stimulate the mind. Read the bestseller of someone who is in your industry. You may not agree with them. You may agree with them. It doesn't really matter, but you want to read to stay abreast of what everyone else or other individuals are doing in your industry. Again, whether you agree with it or not. And the last book is a bestseller on the newsstand of anything, so that you can have the gift of gab and are able to talk in a setting where at a gathering, so that you don't have to talk business all the time. So a book I'm reading right now is called The Lost Symbol by Dan Brown.
Ah.
And so in a social setting, I can talk about the lost symbol and don't have to worry about talking about podcasts or writing books on leadership or teaching or whatever. But it's just so that you can engage with individuals on something other than business.
Right. Good.
So those three
Thank you.
things.
Thanks
Yes,
for
ma'am.
sharing that.
You bet. You bet, Jums. And how about what's next on your plate?
You know, this is just in reference to a previous podcast. In researching this word, I thought I'd get Chat GPT to help me come up with things to talk about
Mm,
on the podcast. And it turns out, though, that you have to create a login and use your phone number. And I decided I was giving the internet too much personal information, so I did not.
okay.
Now, there are several free chat GPT alternatives, one called Socratic, which I thought you'd like because I know in teaching you use the Socratic method.
Yes.
But then, as it turns out, Bing, one of my search engines, it calls itself my AI-powered co-pilot for the web. However, the answers it helped me come up with were no different than those I was coming up on my own. So I wanted to throw out to you, because this is another area that you're really you've researched thoroughly, and that is setting SMART goals and
Mm,
setting yourself up for success with those. And you know what SMART goals are.
absolutely. Yes. And and I'm going to talk to everyone here. Setting up a goal doesn't have to be something just absolutely way away from your
Right.
reach at this particular time. Goals, there are milestones between goals. Set your goals up such that you can hit them. Now, you don't want to make them easy or too easy, but
Right.
you certainly want to have a challenge. However, you certainly don't want them to be long in
No.
the coming, because ah, you might run out of patience, or you might run
Right.
out of time, or you might just become so frustrated that you haven't hit that goal yet. So set those goals so that they're kind of giving you that that little boost when you need it. Um,
Yes.
and here's something I always did. I rewarded myself at work. I rewarded myself by doing certain things. I'm going to do this task, and when I do that, I get to do this.
Mm.
I would always kind of rack and stack my work packages up, and I would take on the most difficult ones first, because I wanted to get to that end goal of having the fun ones to do.
Ah,
A lot of people at work just want to do the fun things. Oh, I'm going to do the fun things, and then I'll leave
right.
that hard thing till later. I did the reverse. I always took the hard ones first, and yes, it took more time. It took more willpower, but you, for me to get it done and get through it, so I can get to the fun ones, I had to do it correctly, not haphazardly, and
Hmm.
not half-heartedly.
Hmm.
Raise your hand if anybody wants to be mediocre. Hopefully
Oh,
nobody
in
raised their
some
hand.
things, in some things.
Hopefully no one raised their hand. But I didn't want to be mediocre at all. I wanted anything I do or touched, I wanted to just to be golden, and just,
Yeah.
everybody say, "Ooh, this was really good. Very, very well done." But when I did that, then I got to go do the fun things that I wanted to do, which was still work. But when you're doing fun things at work, then it's not work.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I would have to agree. And I really like that philosophy, and I'm going to practice that this week and maybe report into you next time we meet about how I've done. Or maybe it'll just be for the value of doing it. I'll
Okay.
I'll decide.
All right. All right. Like
Thanks for
like
that, Wayne.
like getting through all of the research that we do, sometimes that's just okay, gut wrenching, because you're like, this is not what I'm looking for, not what I'm looking for. But
Right.
the fun part of doing that is coming here, talking with you, and
Yes.
sharing with our audience the things that we
Yes.
found. And so, you know what? All of that, not hard work, but all of that diligent work comes to fruition, and I get to have fun with it. So
I do too. I do
this
too.
is
Thank you.
this is my reward.
Awesome.
You are my reward. Getting to talk with Sheila and spreading the verbs to the world. That is my reward. I enjoy that.
I enjoy it too, Wayne. Thank you.
Now, continuing
Yes.
on my thought process
Yes,
of
please.
in life in general and at work. In life in general, um, Mom and dad, brothers and sisters, friends, we get to set expectations of each other, don't we?
Yes.
We also get to set the culture that we find ourselves in or starting because we learn how to interact with others, or at least we learn how we think we should interact with others. Mom and dad taught my brother and I to respect those around you,
Good.
treating everyone as you would want to be treated,
Mm-hmm.
setting the boundaries and help everyone understand the consequences. And the boundaries that I'm talking about is when I was outside playing, my dad would always say, okay, be home before the street lights come on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So that was the boundary. So that meant I can go out and do whatever I wanted to do. But oh my goodness,
that's
he
right.
had, he had set the parameters. He had set those boundaries. If I get home after the lights come on, I'm in trouble.
Yep.
So,
Yep. My mom would ring a cowbell, which would echo throughout the neighborhood. And
ah,
if you tried to pretend you couldn't hear it, a woman down the street would stick her head out the window and say, "Sheila, your mom's calling you."
that's when neighbors used to look out for neighbors.
Yes. Darn
Yes,
it. Darn
I,
it.
w- I want us to go back to that.
I do too. I do too. So you were talking about boundaries, and I had done a little thinking about that too. Um, it never occurred to me, it makes total sense, but it never occurred to me that you have different boundaries at work than you do at home
You
or
do?
in a nightclub.
You
Yeah, I
do?
always thought of boundary as you set a boundary and you establish that and then you throughout your life use that. But no, that's not true.
Really? Can you give me an example, please?
Well, for an example, at work, you might have a larger personal space than you do at a nightclub if you're dancing. Not that
Ah,
I go to a lot of nightclubs lately, but when I do dance, I have less personal space.
okay.
So that's a physical boundary. But also at work, there are certain conversations that are inappropriate, but at home are very appropriate. So because it's a personal relationship and you're
Mm,
talking more about how you feel about people, places, and things.
hmm.
So anyway, that just gave me food for thought, something to ponder.
I like that. You're absolutely right. And we set some boundaries or some rules for our podcast as well.
Yes, we do.
Yes. Okay.
And we did.
Um, and we did, and we do, and we adhere to that. Hopefully.
Right, right.
Okay.
And one of those is no cursing.
And another one is speaking of no politics.
Correct.
Yes, trying to keep all those things out of that. That
Right.
people seem polarized when they start talking about them. I'm looking at the clock. It's 22:50,
Wow.
almost
Okay.
23. Oh my
Okay.
goodness, it's going so fast. All
Right.
right. So going back to being at work and
Yes.
set yourselves and individuals and groups up, teams up for success.
Yes.
Promote those that deserve it. How many times have you been in a organization and you've heard people go, "How did he get promoted?" Or "How did she get promoted?"
I have heard that before. Not
You know?
about me. Well,
and,
maybe it was. Yeah.
and you wonder, okay, because individuals who are doing the work, they know who's doing what. They do. They
Right.
really, really do. And when someone gets promoted outside of the norm, they go, "Huh,
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
yes." Setting people up for success. Say thank you when it's necessary or when it's needed.
Mm-hmm.
Pro- Stay in the loop yourself. Going back to, you need to educate yourself as well and know what is happening in and around your industry. Again, like you asked me to
Yeah.
articulate about the 3 books.
Right.
So get that book, that next bestseller on your industry, and find out what people are thinking, what they're doing, where they're going, what their vision is for your industry for the future. Again, you may not enjoy it, you may not like it, you may dislike it, but at least you know what's happening. Set the expectations and communicate it widely. That's very hard to do in a
Yes and no.
in a virtual
Oh, in a
organization
virtual. Yes, that's
where we
true.
have where we have people all over the world, and the headquarters is, we'll say, the headquarters is in Chicago, and
Right.
you've got virtual spaces all over the world. It's really hard to make sure that you are articulating that expectation and communicating it widely. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard to know that you're reaching everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Again, just like mom or dad, set the example
Yes.
and
Yeah.
set the rules of which to succeed by. As a community, we also set a lot. We set limits, like
Hmm.
speed limits, don't we?
Yes. Are you asking me that for a specific reason?
That was just a rhetorical.
Okay. Good. Good. Phew. Phew.
We set social limits, like you
Right.
suggested. You can use this kind of. We can have this kind of discussion here at the dinner table,
Right.
but we can't have
Right.
the discussion outside. Okay,
Right.
yes. We set boundaries. We set zones. No parking zones.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
We have bicycle lanes. Ooh, only bicycles in here.
Hmm.
And we set the rules of, okay, the stoplights, the red light, the yellow light, and the green
Hmm.
light.
Hmm.
And I've seen people just kind of go through that intersection. I don't care
Yeah.
what light it was.
I tell you, even if the light turns green, I still look around to make sure that those last minute red lighters aren't plowing through the intersection.
I do the same thing, but I don't hit
Good.
my brakes. I do the same thing, but I don't hit my brakes, but I'm ready to, because
Okay.
yes, and and I can count them on my on more than two hands here.
Uh-huh.
How many times I have stopped at an intersection and I've heard the vroom vroom
Yep.
of somebody coming up behind me
Yep.
and just goes straight through the red light.
Mm.
It wasn't even yellow anymore. It was already
Right.
red, and they
Yep.
just vroom right through it. I'm
Yep.
thinking, really,
Yep.
really.
Well, I'm very glad you set yourself up for success in that scenario.
And I'm setting us up for success here because it's 26:35. So I'm going to leave it
Okay.
to you to get the last thing in that you want to say.
The last thing is, as I'm reflecting on things that you've said, if you consider success as an active verb, then to decide to set everybody up for success is a much more positive way about going about life, and we have control and power in making that decision.
Wow. May I quote you on that?
Yes, but I couldn't repeat what I just said.
Of course you can. We could just play it back.
Oh, okay. All right. All right.
Yes. Sheila, I'm looking at the clock. 27:10. Would you take us home, please?
Thank you, everybody, for listening. We appreciate you. We appreciate your feedback, and we just enjoy it and hope that you do too.
Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye.